Patience is a virtue, but it is not an excuse for inaction. This phrase was uttered in my ears when I was but an Oreoling. But now I ask, who am I if I am not a Campbell of others' gold? Which means that the only solution to complement my appetite is to press forward in my Oreo ways, to reconvene where this all started, my Mad Eye's journey to the top. But it is not always such ambition that complements one's desire to eat. It is the very nature of life to desire mastery in such a craft. To become great at Mad Eyes is a virtue of human civilization built across generations, and the madman himself sits at the center of gravity, while us people are nudged to the center. But gravity alone does not build monuments, it merely pulls. What separates the observer from the architect is intention, for Mad Eyes need not chase frivolously. He need not plead of pallets nor bargain with windows. He waits, he measures, he draws lines upon the earth and dares survivors to pretend they are free, to pretend as though they are camels of their own gold. But in reality, they fail to do so. Each console opened is a declaration. This map belongs to I. In these moments, panic pretends to be progress. Survivors flee, believing that their efforts amount to something whole, something tangible, unaware that every step feeds the design intentionally. The design that the madman eyeball has set up himself. A wall constructed both of metal and foresight, working in tandem to achieve victory against all odds. When Mad Eye showed himself to me for the first time, I realized that this journey to the top was never about speed and never about ranking. It was about clarity, about understanding that mastery is not seized but cultivated over time. I was not born with Mad Eyes. I was forged through overwhelming odds, drained energy bars, taunting survivors, and the humiliation of being so close yet so far from being able to strike. But each failure refined the blueprint, becoming another cog in the system. Each loss etched patience into the sign of discipline. For Mad Eyes is not played with the hands alone, but with the mind 3 steps ahead. Where others say chaos, he sees coordinates. Where others tamper with his consoles, he plans somewhere else. And so, as the cameras pan across the cold steel and shifting walls, remember this. The madman does not rage against the world's structures. He redesigns it, he tinkers, he solves problems, until there's nowhere left to run. This is not hunger. This is mastery. This is madness. These are eyes. Think about the utility that Mad Eyes brings. Do you think society would function without Mad Eyes? Do you think people would have the foresight in real-life 1v4 scenarios? Do you think they captured Maduro without his help? The time I lost that 1v as Mad Eyes was the wake-up call. But truly, that calling had always existed to be the angriest of eyeballs. And that is why Mad Eyes extends beyond just a character, but more like a school of thought that you can participate in. Do you do your job like Bloody Queen, high in power but limited in capability? Or do you Mad Eyes your job, unlimited power but no power at the same time? Do you fight for your food with a safety net and restraint like Naiad? Or do you fight for your food like Mad Eyes, fighting for a greater tomorrow at the cost of your personal safety? Do you play it safe and be boring? Or do you play it risky and be cool? Are you the country mouse or the city mouse? Think of it this way. Identity 5 is a 1v4 asymmetrical game, which is scored by the number of eliminations that the hunter is able to inflict upon the survivors. This means that there exists a state where the hunter eliminates some amount of survivors equal to the number of ones that he did not. That is, an equal number of survivors escaped as opposed to were eliminated. This is known as a tie scenario. A Bloody Queen main is content with this lifestyle, slowly climbing the ladder with many ties to the name, while the Mad Eyes main is ambitious and is willing to put everything on the line in order to achieve the cool victories and predicaments. A Bloody Queen meta would be interesting, but a Mad Eyes meta would break the fold of reality itself. I would be able to watch in bliss as every pro now has to suddenly learn Mad Eyes. Of course, that now begs the question of what we need to do in order to unleash the angry visions upon the tournaments of Identity 5. Because professional players will only pick what they believe is the best to get the job done, even if the methodology is not as entertaining. Of course, we can think of small tweaks to the character, such as increasing his movement speed to 4.73 meters per second, the fastest class of hunter movement speed in the game. But in order to have a truly captivating experience, we need to think bigger. Think grander, think more macro. Why can't he ride on his staff like in his visit animation? Why doesn't he get drunk by drinking his alcoholic substance while barmaid does? How come him going here all the time does not damage his vocal cords. These are some examples of paths we can go with them to increase Mad Eye's power, aligned with his philosophy. Of course, some of these measures listed would make him less strong than he was before, and thus would need to be a counterweight to some other improvements in the character. In fact, and I would consider this the most important part of this entire video, is they Today we're going to implement DFS using Python. We want to be able to search through this entire graph using depth first search. What is depth first search and what is this graph? Well, this is a node structure, a tree if you wish to call it that, where this key is the node and the thing that represents the value or the nodes that it connects to. So the letter A goes in this node, and A connects to B and C, so we draw lines to B and C. And B connects to D and E, so we draw lines to D and E. That's the letter B. C connects to F, so we draw to letter F. D connects to no one, so we don't draw anymore here. E connects to F, so we draw a line from E to F. And F connects to no one, so we don't draw any lines there, except for this one, because we want to make an F look more like an F instead of a sideways pie. So ideally, in depth first search, we're going to have our dude, who's the searcher, designated searching man, and he's going to go down as far as he can until he can't no more. He uses red lines to search. Then once he's done and cannot go down anymore, he's going to try the next path that he can, going the minimum now of levels up. So he's going to go to here. And then he's out of paths and he's going to go here. And then finally, he's going to go all the way back up to the top, because there's no other paths you can go down here. And he's going to go down the only other path he can, which is this path. That is depth first search, DFS. We're going to start implementing DFS now. We're going to do DEF to establish a new function. DFS, parentheses, graph, comma, start. We're going to need to insert our graph, or any graph for that is a valid node structure, as the first parameter. And obviously, we need a place to start, which is just we're just going to pass an A here, what we call this function. Now first, we need to keep track of where we've already gone. So we're going to go down here, visited, and we're going to use a set, because you can't visit the same place twice. We're only going to have unique values in the set. Next, we're going to use a stack, which will contain all the places that we currently are looking at. In case you don't know where a stack is, pretend we have a dude carrying another dude. He has very long arms. Carrying another dude. If we want to add this guy onto the stack, well, we need to push. He goes on top of the stack. If we want to remove something from the stack, we cannot remove these people, because then the whole thing go tumbling down, and that's bad. So we have to only remove the thing that's on top of the stack by using pop. Pop goes the weasel, and thus we can remove the top of the stack and then have access to this dude by using peek, which looks at the top thing of the stack. Lastly, we're going to want our output path to show what order have we gone in so far. And at the end, of course, we will only have the resulting path once we've exhausted all options, meaning that when this stack is empty, therefore, while the stack, we're going to take the top thing off the stack. Pop goes the weasel. Then, if the node is not invisited, if the one we're currently looking at is not, no one escapes death, node equals stack pop. That if that node is not in the visited set, that means it's a new node, and we should add it to the path by using append, because in a list, yeah, we have to use append to add something to the end. Then, since we just gone to that place, you could say we visited it. So we must also add visited. We must also add the node to visited. Oh, I consistently spelled it wrong in both places. Interesting. Boom. Now, what do we do next? We're gonna go down a little bit and look at all its neighbors in the reverse list of graph, node, and then if the neighbor is not in visited, so if it's not gone there before, we're going to add it to the stack, meaning that it is something we have to deal with in the next loop, or a potential future loop, not necessarily the next loop. And then finally, we are going to return the path. Now, we're going to go down and print DFS, colon, quotation mark, comma, DFS, graph, A. So, we'll call it a DFS function. We're going to insert the graph that we declared up here, and we're just putting an A as it's going to start. Now watch, as I hit run on this program, and we're going to see the results. Aha. So we don't have line numbers on. But at line 19, we have misspelled the word visited. So we're going to add an I right here. And hit Control S to save. And now we're going to hit F5. And as you can see, the order that it went through, A to B to D to E to F to C. Thank you for your time.